Welcome back to the podcast. This is season 2, episode 1. I'm here with Juliana Kaiser, and this is Creative X Community. And this is a podcast just about the intersection of community and creativity and the creative process. And we've known each other for a while, so maybe you can just tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do professionally.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for having me, Chris. So I grew up in the Okanagan, and I went to interior design school at Toronto Metropolitan University in Toronto. I started my career in Toronto. It took me up north to northern Canada. And then in 2020, I decided to move home. And now I'm bringing professional interior design services to the Okanagan Valley.
I feel like living in the Okanagan is just one of those things where when you're younger, growing up here, the first thing you want to do is get out. But a lot of people end up coming back here. Maybe tell me a little bit about the journey. You know, first, like what took you further away and then how you decided to end up back.
Yeah, it started with like a lust for like the big city, new experiences, culture, and you leave, and then there's something about home and just like brings you back. And there is this idea of that, like, you go out into the world, you gain experience, you get professional development, and then you come home to try to make your community better.
And that's kind of a really cool idea. But I mean, were you intent on coming back to the Okanagan when you were in Toronto, or is that something that just changed over time?
I feel like it changed over time. When you're like living in the city, you're like, I'm going to be here forever. And then, I took a contract up north. So then I ended up working in the Canadian Arctic for 4 years. So a 4-month contract ended up being 4 years, essentially. And then there was something about, the mountains. The mountains were calling me home. I was like, well, it's winter, it's COVID, can't really travel anymore, so I'm just gonna like move home and get a ski pass and become a ski bum again. And then next thing you know, it's like 5 years later, and I started my own business, and I'm meeting people that I know from like growing up here, reconnecting with people that I've known for like 15 years like you. And now it's like, I feel like I'm going to be staying here for a while.
That's great. I mean, I chose to live here, and this was kind of my big adventure. I grew up in a city in Vancouver, and I guess I was looking the other way as well, where, you want something different than what you had when you grew up, right? And at the point when I moved here, it was kind of an odd choice to make a leap to a smaller town, especially being in a creative field, but it just felt right. And at that point I was traveling around a lot, and this was a really grounding, positive place for me. And, from the hustle bustle of the city, I could come here and decompress. And I think I've learned over time that my energy is not coming from the hecticness of life, even though I do, like, I get charged up on that stuff, but I just can't do it for very long. And so to come back here always was the like reset for me. And if I didn't have this balance of being in the Okanagan, I don't think I could have spent so much of my career like in an urban space.
Of course. Like definitely the lifeline of being a creative in a small town is you have to travel. So I will definitely get on a plane to like go to a conference in Toronto, or like meet with my like interior design like the Canadian Interior Design Association. I go to their conferences. And people are always like, how is it in the country? Like, no one really knows where I live. But I don't know. There's still like the active service of like bringing design services to the Okanagan is like something I'm like quite passionate about. So
let's talk about that for a bit. I mean, interior design, I feel like maybe I'm a little older than you, but when I think interior design, very traditionally think like Martha Stewart and all these kind of things that I grew up with.
HGTV.
Like very 80s and 90s kind of mentality towards it. But with Instagram now, and just maybe getting a little older as well, when I look at design work, I'm just so blown away, and the aesthetic and style, and just it's so different, and there's so many interesting things to be done that are crossing like modern and other times all together. And it's I don't know, I find it very visually inspiring, and I really like looking at design work. And in my phone, if you look through it, there's just like loads and loads of screenshots of cool kitchens or cool living rooms that come up in my Facebook or Instagram feed that
totally.
I just really like. And I think, well, maybe you can tell me just one, how do you think design has evolved from that place, like where we were talking more like homemaking, to being this like really...
for sure. Well, yeah, I think interior design is definitely like a multidisciplinary career. Like you're always working with like an architect. There's always like the shell of the building. Then there's like your building services. So engineering goes into interior design, and then you definitely draw on like the elements of design, like form, lines, color, texture. And that also transcends into like, say, graphic design. Like we're always working with like composition, and yeah, you definitely take interior design for granted, but it is the built environment, and we live in environments. Like there's nature and then there's the built environment. So yeah, I feel like we take good design for granted.
Absolutely. And I mean, I have a little anecdotal story about that, but where I guess where I was going with that initially was that I feel like design is so important in our lives. And like you said, we take it for granted. Why do you think design is important to people?
Oh, well, I'll like tap into maybe some like psychology of design classes from university, but yeah, there's definitely a correlation between like your mental health and the environment that you live in. So like scattered minds, ADHD minds, it's like you walk into their bedrooms or their homes and like there's stuff everywhere. So there is a direct correlation of, yeah, a clean space, a well-designed space can like make your life easier. Like there's definitely so much data that shows that, like, say, hospital design, like using color, like soothing colors, bright colors makes you aggressive. So there's like all this like design theory with like even just color that plays into like how humans like interact with space.
I guess I don't have an academic understanding of design, like of spaces, right?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I'm not an architect. I don't know architecture. I don't really know interior design, but I do have an appreciation for it.
Yeah, of course.
And I feel like, you know, we spend, like you mentioned, in a built space.
Yeah.
I've never heard that term before, but it makes sense, right? We spend so much of our time in buildings that are constructed for us by not usually ourselves.
Yeah.
And that has such an impact on our feelings, right?
Yeah, of course.
And so maybe that's why I'm like screenshotting all these great, inspiring interior designs, even though my house might not be like a Venice Beach surf shack. Maybe I would like it to be, but that would make me feel good or something.
Yeah,
but there's something about being in a really nice space, and I've felt this through travel. When you're in an inspired hotel, it's like you just want to write a novel or something, or you know, just something about the space will, you know, inspire you to kind of get creative yourself, or to be in a better mood, or to really just like sit back and just relax and enjoy. And I think for me, I have that appreciation of that, but have no sense of how it all comes together. And if you went into my office, like you say, like scattered minds, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Like I spent so much time in here, and this is the worst room in the house.
Totally. Yeah, well, there's like a quote: bad design shouts at you, good design is a silent seller. So when things just like work, you don't really know like why it works. It just like works. Like take the space, for instance. It's only 450 square feet, but you float the furniture, you can get your couch in, you can get your table in. You have everything you need. All your services are hidden behind millwork. You have a full washer and dryer back there, and it's about like making spaces work. And it's because someone like me thought of it.
But I love that kind of stuff. And that, I guess, going back to the hotel room thing, where I'm pulling a lot of my inspiration design wise from, because I've spent so much time in different ones. And for quite a number of years when I was traveling for work a lot, I would seek out kind of unique hotel experiences. And then there came a point where I was just traveling so much and I had a family that I'm like, I just want the points. I'm going to stay in the Starbucks hotel, basically, right? Not actually, but like a corporate.
Yeah.
And like, you know, at some point you're like, I just need a desk with a plug that works, and I can't work with the thing actually in my lap on a tray.
Yeah, exactly. So again, it's like you go into a space that like has your programming requirements, your functional requirements. I need a surface, I need a plug, and some people don't even think of that. Like you go into like a motel on like Penticton Lakeshore, they might not even have desks. So right off the bat, your functional requirements is like lost.
I mean, I can think, corporate ones, they're not usually the most exciting. Some of them are pretty good, but like I would say a lot of them are kind of utilitarian and kind of trying to cater to the average, which that makes them instantly not that interesting. But they often have thought up through the functional details, like what does the bathroom need to have? What kind of desk space do you need? You know, where's the bed and all these kind of things, like in relation to the workspace. And so I think a lot of that is quite good in the big chain hotels. But I really love when you go into a more eclectically designed hotel. Like and like there was two that were weird. It's now a Sonder thing, but the Beverly Hotel in Toronto was really weird. That's an example of like was cool, but totally not functional. I had to, like, there was no space to work. Like I was crammed on one end of the bed and I had so much like project work to do. I had like cables running all over my bed, like trying to, you know, it just didn't work. And there was no desk and it was so small. And if I had just been laying over with a carry-on suitcase, it would have been fine, but it just wasn't really like appropriate for work or functional for work. But the Ace Hotel in Toronto is so good. I will go out of my way whenever possible to stay there if it's affordable, because there's something about the design that's really cool. It's like big in the lobby. It's like big, tall, sort of arched.
Oh yeah, I've seen it. I think it's new.
With a lot of like concrete and then plywood. And I feel like plywood has also made a really big comeback in the design world. And now I'm like having like plywood envy everywhere I go.
Yeah, totally.
But it's just such a neat lobby space, and it seems to bring people together in a cool way. And then the rooms are just like, I feel like I could spend all day in there just writing.
Exactly. Yeah. So definitely like hospitality, good hospitality design does like seep into like, say, like residential design now. It's like, are there cute little like light switches beside your bed, or like plugs for your phones beside your bed? Like you're seeing a lot of cross like hospitality features like seep into daily life. Or if you use a space for Airbnb, then like you're obviously thinking about like an Airbnb client, not only like yourself.
I'd be embarrassed to have you over at our house. Like we've been there for 5 years, and it's just, you know, when you like barely have hung up a picture frame, and it's just, I'm aware of all these things, and then I feel like I'm trapped in this mentality of, like as a kid, my parents were always renting, and so we were always moving from place to place, and we moved quite a lot. And every time we moved, it was like, oh, we should do this, we should paint. And my dad's just like, no, we can't. We're only going to be here for like a year or two. Let's not do anything. No. So we were always in like rental white. Yeah. Never hung anything on the walls. And then we'd often lived there for 5 or 6 years or more.
Okay,
right?
So then in the end, you could have just like hung something
up.
We
could have painted a wall or done some things, but I guess there was always like right around the corner, everything's going to be different. But we never really settled into the spaces that we were in. And because of that, I feel like it's just ingrained in me to like live in that, which is horrible. And so even in our place, we've been slowly picking away at it, but it's just like there's so much we could do, and I just haven't got there yet. And I don't know if it's because I haven't prioritized it, or if I can't quite afford it, or whatever the reasons are, but I feel like there are things that can be done that are not necessarily expensive.
Oh, of course. Accessible. Yeah, building a home, like honestly, I can just like go into someone's like even unsolicited design advice. I like just walk into a home and I'm like, your brain just like doesn't stop. Like I'm just like, oh, why did they do that? Oh, they could do this. Oh, they could do that. And it's like, girl, you're at a housewarming party. Stop trying to like redesign your friend's life right now. So yeah, that is definitely something that happens a lot. But honestly, if you're a professional, like even just like an hour or two, I can like even like just like provide advice, because people definitely get roadblocked with their own home, or it's always a dialogue between like the partners, like the husband and wife or what have you, that they can't decide on something. So then the interior designer comes in and we're almost like a marriage counselor for your space.
See, the funny thing for me is like my partner is like, I don't know if I would prefer this the other way, but she really is like hands off about design things. Like she does not have, like, even though she's like quite a visual person as well, like she's quite artistic but she's just not like married to things.
Okay, so, interesting. Yeah, so you're the creative. So I feel like you're the aesthetic guy. You're the one that's like...
I know, which is weird. But the funny thing is, so like, I'm kind of glad that like she'll be like, cool, yeah, do whatever you want. Awesome. But then I don't do it. But I'm not sure if I would prefer that she did it and then it was something I really didn't like, you know, like with doilies and, you know, kind of more old-fashioned sensibilities or more feminine sensibilities. It's like, I quite like the kind of Scandinavian, more plain lines, modern aesthetic. But then I'm really lately gravitating towards green things.
Yeah, green is trending.
Because my parents like tried to make me the green color in the bathroom and all over the house in color coding, and I never liked it. I was like, I'm blue, but I could never be blue because that was my dad. So I was.
Oh, that's so funny.
I rebelled against green.
Oh my gosh, psychology of color. Yeah, I feel like I decorated my room in purple everything when I was like 11. Like my parents gave me so much creative freedom as a child, so everything was purple in my life, and now I like can't do purple.
But like right, but like it's like these are the things that they're in the back of your mind and your subconscious, and so for some reason now, just like many things in life, you become your parents, even though you try so hard not to be. So now I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm green.
You're wearing green right now.
I know. Like, sort of. Is this green? Yeah, I guess. But yeah, that forest, like hunter green or whatever it is, like it seems to be like backsplashes and bathrooms. And I think it's in your Instagram. I just saw.
Did a very green bathroom. So that was the exercise of like going into like my clients in Pinterest board and just like hijacking it. I saw she liked like green tile, brass hardware, and I was like, okay, that's the palette. I'll just do it. I'll build on your initial inspiration.
I'm kind of digging it. For some reason, I'm like, maybe that's where I want. And it's sort of a bold choice, right?
Oh,
but then, like
bold.
You said about the colors, like I didn't really think about bright colors being aggressive or.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a moody bathroom. Her guests have likened it to be. It's like a hotel bathroom. So they're saying like the hospitality vibe is there. So that's again like a hospitality space would just commit to a color, whereas residential clients seem to think like everything needs to be white, but it doesn't need to be white.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is I'm sick of living in beige. Like let's,
Exactly. And that's kind of part of my like motto or philosophy is like emotive spaces. Like when you go into that space, it's like this little cocoon. I'm not saying do your whole house in green. It's just this one room. It's a little jewel box within the home. They just like go in and you're in this like little green cave and you turn the water on and it feels like you're in the rainforest.
See, that is cool. And I guess that is why we travel and we stay in hotels and things to have those kind of experiences, but why not be able to have it at home, right?
Exactly.
And yeah, I don't know what it is about this like non-committal thing with residents. And like, I am clearly like, I don't care about the resale of my home necessarily. Of course I do a little bit, but like we're going to be in there for quite a long time, I hope. And I want it to just be fun for us. So, the kids' rooms are all like my oldest kid, her room is like a little sanctuary and she's really designed that. She's actually going into architecture and design at University of Calgary in September.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, which is really cool. So I'd love her to meet you actually. But that program can take you in a number of different directions, which is cool. And so she may end up an architect. She might be an engineer. She could be an engineer.
Well, that's how it always starts. Like you over design your bedroom as a teenager and then next thing you know, you become.
But her bedroom is like Instagrammable.
Oh my gosh, so fun.
Whereas the rest of our house is not like that at all.
Oh my gosh. Well, before you know it, she's going to be helping you renovate each room. So in say like my parents' house, like going back to the home where you grow up, it's like every room is like first year university bathroom reno, like fourth year, first year on the job kitchen reno. And now I'm just like, oh, cringe. My parents were way too nice to me for letting me take over their house.
But that's really cool. And honestly, if it is a bit of like a blank canvas at that point, then why not, right?
Totally.
And the nice thing about not being in a house that was super well designed or that's older now is that it's it is a clean slate. You can do whatever you want.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel like now with like that's kind of a lot of my clients, instead of doing new builds, you're buying older like 1980s builds, 1990s, and the first thing that you want to fix is like the bathroom and the kitchen. So that's like my bread and butter. Like first time home buyers, like let's do like an IKEA kitchen. Like it'll save you money, but it'll just work way better.
I mean, there is something to be said. Like they have spent an endless amount of time and thought and money in making things functional. And even though I don't love everything IKEA, there's like some of the things are just pure genius, right?
Oh yeah.
It's so well thought out.
Yeah, you can't. IKEA is sprinkled into like every one of my projects. There's no denying what the Swedish have done.
I mean, even their cups with the little drainage port on the side of it. I'm like, why don't all cups have that?
Exactly.
How annoying it is to.
I know, and you can always sneak some in. Like even like this table, it's like it has like drop leaf, so it's like perfect for like opening up the sides of like the table. It's just so functional.
Thinking about kind of what you were saying about like people's spaces, like what can you tell about a person when you walk into their space, like immediately when you go into somebody's, say, office or living room or whatever?
Well, it's funny that people say that they're like devoid of design, but you're always making a choice. You always like buy something and you have some emotional connection to it. So I feel like people like to think that they like don't make any choices about aesthetics, but you do. You chose to buy a black leather couch. So like, what does that say about you? Or you like white, like, so that again is like you have some like emotional connection to the pieces that you put into your home.
It's not unlike, when you're in high school and you've got, your certain albums on your shelf or, posters on your door. That's kind of the rudimentary start of interior design for most people, is that you're trying to showcase like who you are as a person, or to show that off, or, identify that to other people somehow, to be like, this is the kind of person that I am.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, I feel like, what does it say about people? Like, yeah, you can definitely, people are always making aesthetic choices, whether they like it or not.
The one thing I have realized is paint is just even just a simple thing to do. You can do so much with just a coat of paint. We had this one room that was just sitting, because we have a split level kind of weird layout. And so we have a sunken, I guess it would have been a dining room or a living room maybe.
Okay.
And it was just so weird when we moved in there. There was an office size photocopier just right in the middle that the people had before, which they took out thankfully when we moved in. But it's like that old kind of like 80s wood flooring that's like this wide, and it kind of
good old oak.
Oak. It's oak, and it's very yellowy, and then that's got to go at some point because it's just coming apart at the seams anyway. But it was like a dingy gray color, the paint, and then there was one like pink wall, and they had a wood burning fireplace kind of sticking out into the space, and so I did a really bad hack job of cutting the chimney at the walls because I couldn't get it from the other side without taking the chimney apart, literally taking the stucco off. And so I tried everything. I'm like, no, this thing's got to go. So I just cut that flume thing off right flush with the wall, and then I put a clock over it. I stuffed it with insulation, put a clock over it, and was like, we'll worry about this later because we want to put in a window or something there. But just painting that room from the weird dingy gray and then like weird pink wall and getting rid of that thing. So now we don't really know what to do with it, but it's like at least a more pleasing kind of warm space.
Totally. Yeah, it's amazing what a coat of paint can do. But with that being said, there's like 35,000 paint colors alone.
So on that though, like how do you choose? Like how do you out of 35,000 colors? I mean, obviously they're all variations on a theme, but like
totally,
how do you pick one out of that mess?
My gosh, you just develop like your favorites, I would say, and then you just kind of stick to them, and sometimes you like deviate. But yeah, you kind of have your favorite whites. You just reuse the same whites. Sometimes it's a warm white, sometimes it's a cool light. But then yeah, you definitely like the colors of the trends. Like you kind of go like, yeah, this was kind of like mid 2000s like gray, whereas now I would definitely probably pick like warmer tones. So I feel like the color trends definitely kind of sometimes dictate my choices.
I mean, I quite like this, but
yeah. I still like it too, but I definitely like remember the time when I was like, oh yeah, gray is the color, but now it's like definitely warmer colors.
We've gone with sort of like, I can't remember what it's called, something ivory, but it's like a sort of warmish white, just like off-white.
Oh, nice.
But I feel like now I'm scared to get color in there. I've just painted everything that color.
Nice.
But we do have a couple feature walls, but I heard feature walls are going out. So
unfortunately they are, Chris.
Yeah. So I kind of want to repaint that one just white as well. And then the other one we're just going to take out. So whatever.
Yeah, I feel like they're definitely, like new trends are definitely like color drenching. So I love that, just like wrapping the whole space in one color and just like committing. But definitely for smaller spaces like bathrooms and bedrooms, whereas living rooms, kitchens, especially if it's open concept, you can't really delineate spaces. So you just have to pick one neutral throughout.
And then you have like backsplashes and things you can play with, I guess. Yeah. And like cabinetry colors and stuff to accent the space, I guess. But what's a project that you've worked on like that really, you're proud of?
I would say my first hospitality restaurant project in Kelowna is something I'm proud of. Yeah, I worked with a restaurant owner, and it was like a 3-year project. So I feel like good things happen to those who wait. Like you're really like working with a client for a long haul. So we did like a really good job of executing like a new like Perlick bar and new lighting, new like flooring.
That's a big task though, because when you're in a restaurant space, that there's a lot to think about functionally. It's a lot different than a home, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So you definitely you work with the client like very specifically to meet like their functional requirements. And it really is a collaborative process. Like business owners will tell you exactly what they need. You don't just like come in there and like redesign everything. Like you definitely have very strict parameters to work with.
I guess it's not specific to interior design or space design necessarily, but I kind of was into human-centric design for a while, or human-centered design from more of like a user interface standpoint. And there's a company called IDEO out of the States who's quite big in this, kind of user experience research and development. And so they really do really inspiring kind of content as well that I've kind of watched. So that's probably where a lot of that was coming from at that time. And this is quite a number of years ago. But because of that, I started to really think about how things are designed, like in terms of products and spaces as well. Because when you're in a bad space, it's just so apparent. And I think sometimes people don't realize what it is, but like you go to a coffee shop and you have like two-way traffic going between the cash register and the coffee pickup. And you're like, why am I going back and forth through this line of people? Why doesn't it flow nicely? Or why, and it's just so important. And I feel like just like in filmmaking, where a lot of the choices you make, people don't necessarily understand exactly why it makes them uncomfortable or feel awkward or it doesn't work, but they do feel it somewhere in some emotion. And when you go to a place that feels like that, it's just not as good as it could be, and it's not not going to work, and your business may also not succeed if you don't.
So that's why I feel like there is value in like making the investment to like hire professional designers, because in the long run we will save you money because you will get more customers into your store if it's like works well, if it's a nice space.
Like the feeling of a place can make or break. Obviously you have to have a good product too, and everything else has to work, but it starts with how people feel when they walk in, right?
Exactly. So
very cool. Well, I'm gonna have to go check this place out. I know where it is.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can mention it. We probably can mention it. Does it matter?
Yeah. Train station pub in Kelowna. Yeah, it was really fun. It was a heritage building. So you don't work with a lot of like brick buildings in the Okanagan. So that was super fun just to like play off of existing design features, existing wood. Like we just kept the shell as it is and just like made interior adjustments.
Well, I feel like that was such an old-timey space too, which obviously an update was kind of necessary to bring it into the current.
Yeah, for sure. But we didn't want to like deviate too much. Like definitely like if you have like an older clientele base, they are very adamant about keeping like the same chairs. So like we just like kept the same chairs, but like reupholstered them. So like we didn't change certain elements too much. We just updated them.
Which is cool. And I think that also, like you said, it's a collaboration, but it also becomes a collaboration in that sense too, because now you're collaborating with the history of a place, right?
Totally. Yeah. And we don't ever want to like like I said, like you're always working with the client. The client's always in charge. They tell you if they like something, they tell you if you don't like something, and you're always just bouncing off each other to develop a project that makes everyone happy.
Okay, what's one trend that you wish would go away?
Oh.
I'm putting you on the spot now. I realized what I just thought of it. I was like, whoa.
One trend that you wish would go away. Oh, this is quite controversial, but there's something about farmhouse modern when you're not on an actual farm that kills me. Like suburban houses in the middle of suburbia, and then you like walk in and they're like trying to be a farm. It's like, yo, you are like 200 kilometers away from a farm. But if you're actually on a farm, then yes, 100%. Do that style.
So what you're saying is I shouldn't board and batten my house from the outside necessarily.
Well, yeah, well, you're like middle bench. There's a few farms around.
It would be, I feel like that trend though, it has to go away soon because I feel like everybody and their dog went board and batten style. Yeah. Maybe because it's simpler, easier
and shiplap. I know, just so much shiplap.
Yeah, shiplap is kind of a funny one too. Like, oh, we're in a Cape Cod
oceanside
cabin, even though we're like in the suburbs.
Yeah, exactly. So like 100% you're on Okanagan Lake. Like go nuts for your like beach house because it's like it's culturally appropriate to do that, but just there's something I think that's like a problem I also have is just like not designing for like the context of the space. So like we're in the mountains, we're so connected to nature in the Okanagan, so I definitely embrace like West Coast modern, like mountain modern, like that's kind of the style. Not trying to be like gaudy like marble or what have you, because like we're nowhere near Italy. Like marble comes from Italy, so like fake marble, oh yeah, that's another one. Fake marble tile, very passionately against that.
What about vinyl flooring?
Oh, vinyl is so bad for the environment, so that kills me as well. Like yeah, using real hardwood flooring, or say like linoleum. I love Forbo linoleum. It's made from linseeds. So yeah, making sustainable choices is also a big one.
Very unsustainable choices in our house. Like went with the vinyl just purely from a functional standpoint. But as I was like putting it in, I was like, wow, there's a lot of like, it just feels like plastic.
Off-gassing? Could you smell it?
No, not really. I don't think. I think at that point, maybe it was a pretty high-end product, but yeah, I couldn't wrap my head around hardwood was so expensive. And I guess I know you're just you hate me after this, but even now though, when I just feel like it doesn't have the same feel, and I almost prefer our old crappy 80s floor texture.
You can always refinish hardwood flooring.
True. This stuff isn't that quality though.
The oak?
Yeah, it's like a ply, like the top layer is really thin, and it's like it's cheap.
Okay.
I think it must have been entry level hardwood, and it just doesn't. That top layer is not gonna survive. It's got to come out and not worth saving. But yeah, when I go to a house that actually has real wood floors and I walk on them, I'm like, oh yeah, this is. I guess it's not too late. I could just rip out what I did upstairs because we've only got so far. But then I would have to win the lottery a little bit for that to happen.
I know.
And then with kids, yeah, it's tough. But I'm with you. Like I prefer the real texture of things, and I kind of regret that choice because it's, I don't know. It just feels like plastic you're walking on.
C'est la vie.
we don't have to like go down this isn't about me. But I can appreciate where you're going with that. More organic materials like cork or something would have been probably a better choice. And that's quite nice. I've lived in a house with cork floors, and that they feel quite lovely to walk on. So.
Or this is kind of an economic choice, doing just like OSB. This is just like builder grade OSB, and then they just like put a varnish on it. Yeah,
that's a neat choice actually, and that I think, especially in a space like this, really works.
Totally.
You don't need to go fancy, and I think some of those more kind of aesthetic choices you're seeing more and more. Like I looked at something online the other day. It was somebody's house, and they had a lot of cinder block as like a separating wall.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, how cool is that?
I know.
And how bold of a choice too, and it just works, and it's so intentional.
I feel like that's like I feel like when you're looking at like blogs and like Pinterest, you're like, oh, that's in like Mexico. Like say they use like, that's how they build. So then for them just to like put cinder block exposed is like no big deal, because that's how they build houses there. Whereas for us, we're always thinking like wood frame construction, everything is wood.
I really dislike drywall.
Yeah.
And I think this is
drywall.
Yeah, and just this is where I feel like the plywood trend is really kind of cool.
Paneling.
Yeah, because it's got such a different feel about it. And it is so bold, and that is when I worry, like if I plywooded that room that I'm thinking of changing, it's like, that would be so cool. But then if anybody bought this house, would they just be like, ugh?
Yeah.
But maybe I don't care. Maybe it doesn't matter.
You shouldn't care. Don't think about the future. Other people will just come in and renovate it themselves anyway.
Exactly. Like chances are whoever's next is going to knock the place over. So, but I'm trapped in that childhood mentality of don't get too permanent with it, but why not? Right.
Yeah.
It's our space.
Totally.
Yeah. Maybe it's time to get more bold about it. I'm start with my office.
Yes. Your man cave.
Yeah. Man cave. Just blow it up. It needs to be more functional for sure. Talk to me about your sort of community. You don't totally work alone. You have other people you collaborate with. And then obviously there's your clients.
Yeah, for sure. So it's funny. To this day, I started working with like a developer based in Iqaluit. So I still do work remotely for my clients up north. So I am sort of part of like a bit of a network up there still, even though I do all my planning from down south here.
And you had a cafe that you designed up there, right?
Yes,
and I remember thinking
did.
how that was so cool.
Yeah, so I did like the first like hipster coffee shop in the Arctic in like 2017. And I think to this day it's like the community hub. Like they've hosted like politicians, like Justin Trudeau popped in for a coffee there, like Jasmeet Singh. So like it really is like the community hotspot. They host like gallery events, like private events.
That's a kind of interesting like spin on the idea of community, because where I was going with that just a second ago was kind of thinking more about the people you work with directly and how you build community around that. But then spaces that you're designing, that creates community, no?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Like when it comes to like commercial buildings, you're always thinking about all users of the space. So yeah, you're always like barrier-free considerations, like everyone and anyone. So yeah, inclusivity. So yeah, that was like a really fun project. I actually never got to see it finished. I basically like designed it, like took photos of it at like final board up, like that everything was done. And then like, I never saw like the grand opening. So
have you been there for a coffee yet?
No.
Oh man.
I know. I literally like moved, like the project was done. And then like the next week I moved to Yellowknife. So
that's so cool though. And I think that would be to me, and I guess I should ask you this rather than just trying to put this out through my own, through my own, whatever. What's the most rewarding thing for you about design?
I would say just like, well, if say like there's like kind of two client streams I have, which is commercial design and then residential design. So commercial design, I love to see just like clients coming back like 5 years later, or a business still like living its best life like 6 to 8 years later. And then returning residential clients. So when they come back for like more work, or they like bought a new house, like come back. And yeah, so having these relationships that aren't just like a year long, like it's like 5 years, 10 years long. I think that's important.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting aspect of careers that people don't think about in the beginning, but the people you start with often come along for the ride with you in different ways, or they keep hiring you, or whatever the sense is. But I mean, my career also has been wonderfully with quite a small group of people, really. I mean, there's always new people coming into it, but
for sure.
But I still work with people that I did very early days.
Totally.
Which is a nice, way to do business, because I think then you're always connected to where you've come from, and there's a sense that you've done a good job because they come back to you. And
exactly. And I feel like it's getting easier with technology. So the fact that like I could plan like a hunting lodge in Newfoundland without ever going to Newfoundland, and just did it all through like my phone and like video chat, like it's good. Yeah.
Do you find that sort of, I mean, because you are further away from some of the things you're working on?
Yeah.
Is that challenging for you or easy, or
it's just different? Like offering like e-design services, you're definitely like not going to site. You're not worrying about every detail necessarily. You just have to kind of like tone back your scope. It's like, I've picked everything. The client, the contractor can figure it out. Whereas when it's a local project, I'm like going to site, making sure everything lines up, like way more hands-on. So it kind of depends on like what the client expects out of you and like what you yourself expects the outcome to be.
That makes sense. And I guess too, I mean, from an opportunity, like just from a personal standpoint, it allows you to kind of live wherever you like, which is the dream, right?
Well, it's kind of, it's like half digital nomad, but half one day I would like to have a brick and mortar design studio. So I'm somewhere in between right now.
I'm kind of with you on that one, because for me, it's very much the same. I'm like, how cool would it be to have all this stuff kind of just set up more permanently and to be in that situation? But on the flip side of that, I like that I'm a traveling camera person, right?
Exactly.
Or a traveling producer of content, because it just keeps me engaged. Whereas if I was just only in my own space, that would be, and I like the idea that I'm not married to that space. And I guess now we're just unpacking all my issues as like a,
this feels like therapy because we're on the couch.
We're on the couch. Yeah. But I think that, I like the idea of like being lightweight. And I feel like a lot of people in my field are trying to overcomplicate things now. Everyone's trying to do everything like cinematic, which I love that idea of trying to visually, represent something well. But I think you can go over the top by being too heavy-handed with it. And sometimes just like cooking, or working with really good materials, it's like you need to just respect those materials and do as little to them as possible. And I feel like sometimes in my work, that's the same. If I'm interviewing somebody, I'm not sure that, setting up a zillion lights and making it super dramatic always serves the story, even though it might look cool, right? And so, I don't know. I'm trying to kind of walk a fine line between good production value and also being lightweight enough to be nimble and agile. And I like the idea of like kind of being able to move through the world really quickly and not be super invasive in other people's spaces, and like, still tell stories. And so maybe aesthetic wise, I'm not super on trend that way, but what I like about it is that I'm here and haven't just blown your place up to make it into a film studio. And it's kind of authentic, I guess.
Yeah, that's maybe your inner like Japanese minimalism coming in.
Yeah, and also like from a purely just total functional standpoint, I've traveled enough to know that sometimes you got to leave some things behind.
Yeah.
And one of the most freeing things of travel is that you're not encumbered by all your stuff.
All your baggage.
Yeah, all your baggage.
Whoa, the metaphor.
But it's just, I like traveling when I have very little things. And like I've done crazy, 6-week-long trips with a carry-on suitcase and just dealt with it along the way. And it's just a really freeing feeling to not have all that stuff. And camera stuff, same thing. Like, you can just bring so much equipment, but it's like, well, what do I really need? So
I know that's always like I think just like any millennial business owner, well, you're always just thinking like, do I need brick and mortar to like appease to like say like baby boomers who are like real businesses have like a storefront that I can like walk into, versus like the millennials. It's like, work from home, just like show up to my place for meetings, or we'll meet at a showroom, versus like coming to my office.
I've really come into my own with that, because when I started my career, I felt like that's how I felt very awkward about it. Like I didn't have an office, like I should have an office. And I got one for a period of time, and I'm like, this is such a waste of money. I'm never here. This is not functional. My stomach is growling. It's not functional because there's so many weird in between moments in my job where the computer's doing something, and like at home I can go make a sandwich or go do my laundry or have a nap or whatever. Whereas in the office, I couldn't do any of that, and it just didn't work, and it wasn't fluid for me. But as the world has changed, it's really validated my idea that like, hey, there's a whole other way to work, and now everybody's kind of doing that, which is cool.
Yeah, totally.
Well, on the note of design things, I think we've covered a lot. Is there, if somebody was looking to go down your career path, do you have any helpful tips?
Oh, the next generation. Oh man. Well, you can never be prepared enough for design school. I feel like a 4-year design education was like so rigorous. I kind of thought that like it was going to be like art class. So you could just like do whatever you want and like just let your creativity soar. But like, no, like within the design parameters, like there's like principles of design, there's codes, there's regulations, there's client expectations. So you definitely always like have parameters to like harbor that creativity, so you're not just like running free.
I feel like that's a really interesting creative conundrum that all creative people go through, because film school was a lot like that. You go and you're like, I'm going to be an artist. I'm going to make whatever I want. And in school, even there are parameters, but like you kind of get to do a little bit of whatever you want. And then you get in the real world and it's like,
and then it's the next step that it's like budget, deadlines, building codes.
Do you enjoy the business part of your job as much as the creative part?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one to say. Well, I do love an Excel spreadsheet, so I'm very analytical that way. But running a business, the fact that I started my own business in 2021, no one would ever have prepared me for the trials and tribulations of being a small business owner. So that's like the next step. That's like the new challenge I gave myself.
I often think that like a lot of people in my field don't necessarily survive more than 5 or 6 years because the business side eats them alive. You know, it's great. Like we were talking about that creative freedom. Everybody wants to be like roaming around in the back of a Volkswagen van and taking photos, or probably just designing however you want, building whatever you want. But the reality is that to survive and be successful in a career sense, you do have to play certainly within some parameters and satisfy clients. And it's not always about you, which can be a really challenging thing as a creative person. But I recognize that right away. And I found that the business side of things actually was quite satisfying as well. I mean, obviously the challenge of running your own business is a whole different conversation. But some of the things, like when you get a new client and they pick you, or pick me, like I find that really like a great feeling. And so that whether it's something really cool or not, I feel hugely validated by when somebody chooses me to do the work. And you know, I've learned to let go of the ones that maybe I don't win necessarily, but I think that side of the business and the interaction I have with my clients, I find almost equally satisfying now as the creative process too. But
yeah, definitely.
And maybe that's why I've been in it for so long, because I think without that part, it would be really hard, right? Like the other side of things can be a lot different than you think.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, like I worked in offices and then I decided to kind of embark on this adventure of starting a studio. So here we are, 4 years in.
Wow.
This was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate the conversation. And yeah, I look forward to seeing some more of your work. And if for the people that are watching this, is there somewhere they can find you on the Internet of Things to look at what you're doing? Of course.
Yeah. So I'm Juliana Kaiser and I am Studio Kaiser.
Awesome. Studio Kaiser on the Instagram and all those things. Thanks so much.
Have a good day.